Good day, everybody, and welcome to our Sage Intelligence webcast. My name is Walter Goodfield, and I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing at RKLE Solutions. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to learn more about Sage Intelligence for the Sage ERP portfolio. Joining me today is Mark Eddy. Mark is a product specialist at Sage Software, and he's going to walk us through the business case for Sage Intelligence. But before we get started, I wanted to just do some housekeeping. During the presentation, all lines will be muted. We will open up the lines for Q&A during the session and definitely at the close of the session. But if you have questions and you want to submit them, you can utilize either the chat or the Q&A capability within the WebEx tool. Feel free to submit those questions during the presentation while they're warm, and I'll queue them up, and Mark and I will address them at the end. For today's presentation, I just want to set the ground rules real quick. If you're a current user of Sage Intelligence, this may not be the right presentation for you. This presentation is geared more from an education and awareness standpoint. We have several of our own customers and clients that are still using FRX. As many of you know, if you've been using the Sage products for any time, FRX has been retired, and we've been proactively communicating with our customers to make sure that they have an FRX replacement strategy. If you do have Sage Intelligence, don't despair. You may not get a lot of value out of today's presentation, but there may be some tips and tricks that you'll pick up. And one of the slides that we will cover is an additional resources slide, which will show you where you can get access to more information using the Sage portals that are included in your maintenance and support plan. Real quick, today's session will be recorded. So if you request the playback, we'll be more than happy to share that with you. If you want to share that with other team members that were unable to join today, we'll make that available for all of today's attendees. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Walt Goodfield with RKL Solutions, and joining me on today's call is Mark Eddy. As I mentioned, Mark Eddy is a product specialist on the intelligence solutions at Sage. He's been with Sage for more than 5 years, and before joining the intelligence team, worked for one of the sister products within the portfolio, Sage Fixed Assets. Joining us, but quietly on today's call, are your customer account managers. Gia Lane is our customer account manager on the east, and Rachel Roselli is our customer account manager on the west. Rachel and Gia are your primary contacts here at RKLE Solutions, and if you have any questions about your customer experience, whether it's additional products, maybe a statement of work, or a support case that's been submitted, they're here to help you navigate internally to get the resolution that you need. I don't have a lot of slides about RKL. If you have questions or comments about who we are or our team, feel free to contact me afterwards. As I said, today's session is all about Sage Intelligence, and at this point, I'd like to pass the controls over to Mark, who's going to walk us through a very high-level understanding of what is Sage Intelligence before giving us a presentation. So without further ado, take it away, Mark.
Thank you very much, Walt. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to join us today to talk about this really important piece of your ERP for Sage 100. So the data that's being collected and organized inside of Sage 100, you need to take note of how to get access and how to utilize that data so that you can use it to make decisions and become a more agile business. So Sage Intelligence is a very important tool. The main function of Sage Intelligence is to provide you reporting from all the ERP modules and databases within Sage 100, as well as the option to connect to other data sources in your enterprise. We're going to give you the ability to run not only financial reports, but also operational reports. Again, this is for every module inside of Sage 100. The output for all of the reports are placed into a familiar interface, which is Microsoft Excel. So you can use a lot of your existing Excel skill set to create and design reports, probably very similar to what you're doing today. It's always a knee-jerk reaction that everyone has to export data to Excel because it's flexible, it's easy, and everyone's familiar with it. So you will be able to harness that information you already know to design and create your reports, but you'll only have to do that one single time. You won't have to recreate the wheel every time. Now, Sage Intelligence will give you several report templates out of the box that you can start utilizing and customizing to suit your own needs, or of course you can start from scratch. As I mentioned, you can start reporting off of not only the data in the ERP, but also other software packages that you might have. And the reason why Sage Intelligence came into existence is we did want to investigate this spreadsheet behavior that everybody has. It's become the standard workaround for everyone to get access to the data inside of Sage 100. But it can lead to some issues, and it's what we call spreadsheet chaos. These are version control issues, security issues, and of course the fact that it is more of a manual process, so it can tend to be error-prone. So we wanted to embrace that behavior since the shared skill set of Microsoft Excel is so important. If you think about it, that's one of the biggest limiting factors of moving to other solutions is, well, I'm going to have to get trained. I'm going to have to learn this new program. Sage Intelligence gives you an option to move to a new reporting solution where all of your end users already have at least a very basic skill set. So it's a very logical transition. We also want to cause a shift in where you spend the majority of your time. Currently today, with most people's workaround, even with FRX, like Walt was referencing, a lot of people are having to manually manipulate and massage data to get it into a format that they can actually utilize. So the main goal of Sage Intelligence is to cause a shift in where you spend your time so that you can spend more time in the actual analysis stage, actually utilizing the data to make decisions. That's where we believe you'll be able to become a more agile business and take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves. Should I move into a new market? Should I hire another salesperson? Things like that. Being able to get access to your data in very quick and efficient ways, that's really how you're going to be able to harness and realize some actual cost savings. So we give you that flexible environment that you can get up and running very quickly, as well as the ability to address the other classic bottleneck when it comes to reporting, and that is the time it takes to get data into the hands of the end user or the consumer of the data. Sage Intelligence, with the licensing that you already own, gives you collaboration and distribution functionality inside the reports themselves. So no longer do you have to constantly save reports as PDFs or export to static Excel. You'll be able to distribute reports using Sage Intelligence either to an email address or shared network folder, or even use an FTP server to publish this data out to a website. We also, like I mentioned, give you the ability to consolidate data, and this is huge, especially if you have aspirations of creating dashboards that might match up data from different data sources, operational data with financial data from different software packages. Sage Intelligence gives you that flexibility. We also give you out-of-the-box value. So we include several different report templates out of the box that you can start using today, and you may not realize that you actually already have a license for Sage Intelligence. So this is definitely something that you can be up and running by the end of today if you wanted to. So let's cover some different components of Sage Intelligence and show you how data walks through the system. You have all of your data sources on the left-hand side, whether they're the databases for the ERP or any other data source that you choose to pull data from. All of that data will flow into what's called the connector. The connector is actually an optional module that you can add if you have multiple companies that you need to perform consolidations for, or if you want to pull data from that outside data source, the non-Sage 100 data source. Out of the box, we include all the connections that you need in order to do majority of your reporting out of Sage 100. So today, you'll be able to connect to sales, inventory, AP, AR, things like that, and be able to run reports without creating any custom connections. You already have the connections that you need. All that data from the connector will flow into what's called the report manager. The report manager is a user license, it's a named user license, and those individuals are the ones that actually create and organize the reports for your organization. Now, we also offer a report viewer license for individuals that are inside of Sage 100 and need to have the freedom to run reports on their own at their leisure. So this is very common for executive leadership or salespeople or things like that, where they need to be able to have access to data, but they won't be actually creating or designing new reports. When a report manager or report viewer runs a report, the output is placed into a new Microsoft Excel workbook. From there, a lot of the design and customization is all done using native Excel skills. And with the release of Microsoft Excel 2013, there are some really slick functionality pieces that you can start harnessing, things like animation of metrics, geospatial mapping, really slick representations of data that are a departure from the standard grid or worksheet that you're probably used to. Now, in addition to existing Excel functionality, we do give you some enhancements for Excel, one of which is an option, which is called the Report Designer. For those that are on the line that use FRX, this is an option you're definitely going to want to add. The reason why is it gives you the ability to create dynamic, robust financial statements by simply dragging and dropping the components that you want. It also gives you the ability to convert existing FRX reports by simply copying and pasting an export of the FRX report directly into an Excel worksheet and linking formulas. It's a very easy, straightforward process and can allow you to maintain the existing layout and formatting of your reports, but create a more dynamic and self-service environment for the end user. Now, that is an optional piece, but included with what you already own, you do have that enhancement for distribution. So the distribution module is a plugin for Microsoft Excel, and that's going to allow you to set up distribution of your data to email addresses, shared network folders, and FTP servers. So just a quick recap on the different components. You have that connector, which is an optional piece. Again, you'll need to add that if you have multiple companies that you plan on consolidating, or if you need to make custom connections to any data source outside of Sage 100. The Report Manager, you already have one named user of the Report Manager, and you can add additional Report Managers if you need. Those are named user workstation-specific licenses. The Report Designer is an enhancement for Excel, so it's a site license. You only would need one designer. And again, that's for building robust financial statements. There's a Report Viewer license. Again, that's a named user workstation-specific license, and those are for individuals that can run reports in real time and drill down, manipulate parameters, things of that nature. The only difference is they won't be able to make changes to the template. We also include a license manager and security manager so that you can manage the individual user roles and security policies for your users. Some of the standard reports that we include out of the box are both financial and operational, and you do have the ability to customize any of these templates and make them your own. Of course, you always have the ability to start from scratch as well. We include several different dashboards, some for sales, one is for profitability analysis, and we do include some basic financial reports like GL transaction and trend analysis, as well as the ability to get a predetermined list of financial statements when you add that designer module. So you'll get your income statement, balance sheet, things of that nature, all inside of one workbook that you can customize to suit your needs or delete them all together and start from scratch. So this is the last slide that I'm going to go through, and probably the most important slide. And this is the resources that you have available to you. Now, the number one resource that I always recommend people work closely with is your partner, RKL. So your partner is going to understand the different nuances of your business and any idiosyncrasies that you should take into account when it comes to creating a report strategy. So definitely work closely with them, and I can tell you there's a lot of really good talent that's familiar with Sage Intelligence in-house for RKL. So you have a really good resource right there. The next resource that I highly recommend is the Sage Intelligence community site. I venture to say that Sage Intelligence is probably the best supported product in the Sage ecosystem, and the reason why is it's a global product. So it's used by all of our ERP offerings worldwide, not just our North America ERP offerings. So you have an extremely large user community that all contributes to this Sage Intelligence community. To that website, there's going to be forums where you can post questions or search the existing knowledge base, or there's existing groups for each ERP platform. So you can go to a landing page specifically to Sage 100 and look at all the resources dedicated to your ERP. You won't have to sort through things for Sage 50 or Sage 300 or any other platform that you're not currently utilizing. The engineers, the Sage engineers, run a weekly blog as well, and that's a great resource because it will tackle topics not only related to Sage Intelligence, but also advanced Excel skills. When I first started with Sage Intelligence, I had zero background in accounting and almost no advanced Excel skills whatsoever. Between using the Sage Intelligence community and keeping up with the blog, I was able to get myself ramped up very quickly. We also offer training on Sage University, and of course my favorite resource of all, the good old YouTube. There's a great channel out there dedicated to Sage Intelligence specifically, and you'll see a wide range of videos, anything from technical resources on how to get installed and configured, everything up to how to create a rolling income statement step by step. So there's a lot of good resources that you can harness out on YouTube as well. So with that, I want to switch gears here, and I'm going to share my other monitor so that we can take a look at my Sage 100 environment. So currently, you're looking at my desktop for Sage 100 version 2014. You'll notice that directly from the navigation tree on the left-hand side, Sage Intelligence Reporting is installed directly inside the navigation tree. So if you're on a previous version from 2014, you still have the ability to utilize Sage Intelligence. It is a separate download. I would recommend that you reach out to your point of contact at RKL and they can help you get up and running. But you do have that one report manager license like I had mentioned. So under the Sage Intelligence Reporting folder, you have two different options, Reports and Setup. Setup is where you're going to find the license and security manager as well as the connector. Keep in mind that the report manager is a named user workstation specific license. So you do need to provision the specific workstation that's going to be utilizing the report manager license that you already own. So I'm going to launch this report manager license, and you'll see that it launches in this new window. Maximize this here. And the first step that you want to take as a new user is right-click the home icon and click Add Folder, like I've done here, Marks Reports. The reason you do that is the standard reports that we include out of the box do come locked. So if you've ever played with this before and you weren't able to make changes and create your own templates, the reason why is you need to make a copy by right-clicking, copying the report template that you want, and pasting it into your folder, like I've done here. So now you can see the sales report. I can change the columns that show up for the report, add any filters or parameters. You can see for this report specifically, we're running this for a specific date range with a salesperson number. So when the end user, whether the report manager or report viewer, runs this report, it's going to prompt that user for those specific parameters. If you're constantly getting requests for reports and it's always needing to be changed, if someone's saying, can you run the sales report for this person, or can you change it and run it for this date range, you can start to think of different parameters that you can enable inside the report templates that will allow the end user to specify the specific data they want to see. Also, if you're running reports that traditionally have been resource hogs, you can parse down the data prior to it even running. So when I click Run on this report, it's going to prompt me for those parameters. And you can see it will ask me for the date range and the salesperson number. And when I input those fields, it will pull all of the data from the ERP database in real time and place it into a new Microsoft Excel workbook. The first report we're going to run today is going to be our financials. So I select the Report Designer report and click the big green Run button. Now it's going to pull all the data from our ERP database and place it into predetermined templates for our income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, and a few other financial statements. What we'll do is go out to Microsoft Excel and update some of these templates, and I'll show you how you can make changes. So this is the standard output for the designer report. You'll notice that the designer report includes this add-in or task pane on the right-hand side of the workbook. At the bottom, you'll see individual worksheets that house each of our financial statements. So I have my income statement here, and you'll see that I have a collapsible filter. So I can see a summary view as well as a detailed view for each of our accounts. If I select one of these values, you'll notice that it's actually a formula going back to the underlying ERP data. In no way is this a static representation. So I can drill down simply by right-clicking, and it creates a new tab with the balance level, and I can further drill down to the transaction level by right-clicking again. Any of the parameters that we've instituted here, like the year and period, as well as reporting unit, which of course is tied back to specific segments in your chart of accounts, the end user can manipulate, and you'll see the data updates accordingly. So if you would run your income statement for the 6th period, but you'd like to see it for the 4th, rather than having to rerun the report, you can simply change the parameter inside the sheet, and you'll notice that all the data updates accordingly. Alternatively, if we wanted to see a 2-year income statement with a variance, but we wanted to compare 2009 against 2008, I don't have to redesign the report. I can simply make the change in the 1-year field, and it automatically waterflows all of the changes throughout the Excel workbook. Now, you can look at some of these statement templates that we include out of the box, like this balance sheet, and you can say, you know, I like this layout here. I want to put in my logo. Let's say that you don't want the current month change or year to date. You can simply delete some fields, add in any user-defined calculations, add in a new column. And then as soon as you have this report looking exactly how you want, rather than saving a static Excel workbook, you're going to come back to the Report Manager, right-click the report template, and click Save Excel Template. That's going to read any of the changes that you've made inside of Microsoft Excel, and the next time you run the report, it'll look identical to the way that we left it with our logo and those missing columns, only it will pull fresh data from the ERP every time. So what you're doing currently today, creating pivot tables and adding in your own filters and parameters inside the static Excel worksheets, you'll still be able to harness all of that skill set, but you only have to do that one single time. You won't have to recreate the wheel every time you need to run the report. Now, the advantage here is, since this is Excel, you are not limited in what you can do and how you can break your reports out. For instance, if I wanted a balance sheet for each of my cities, I have reporting trees very similar to the ones that you probably used in FRX, and I don't need to create 4 separate balance sheets for each of our cities. It's Excel. I can simply make a copy of this, and we'll put this right next door here, and we could rename this our New York balance sheet. Rather than having to change all of these values, I can simply drag and drop the filter that I want, and you'll notice all the data updates accordingly. Now, you may look at some of these templates and say, none of this really suits my need, and I need to just start from scratch. You can delete all of these templates out of this workbook and just add a new blank sheet. So we'll create a very basic balance sheet from scratch right now. I can drag and drop my entire chart of accounts and place it wherever I want inside the Excel workbook. Let's say that I don't want these columns. I'll delete these altogether. And let's say I want my actuals to be on one column here, and I want a comparison against budget right next door. The end user needs to specify the year, period, and company name. And rather than manually inputting those parameters, I'm actually going to drag and drop the formulas for those parameters to make this a dynamic report that will update on the fly. So I'm dragging and dropping the parameters for actual. Here's the formula for period and for year. And for the company, since I only have one company, I also have the ability to hard code parameters so that they cannot be changed by the end user. Now that I've dragged all of my formulas into the workbook, I have the ability to specify how this formula behaves using the function argument window. Now this is outside of your standard Excel skills, but we do include help functionality right inside of the software. If I click help, it'll open up a box that walks me through step by step what I need to put in for each of those different parameter fields. So for the GL link, it's pretty straightforward. It's looking for the account number. So I simply select this, and by pressing F4, I can anchor it by row and column so that it automatically will progress throughout our rows. So that's going to allow me to create dynamic ranges with inclusions or exclusions and get the specific view of the balances that I need. Now for the year, I want the formula to look to one single field. So I simply select the field that I want. Same with the period and for our company name. So now that I've created this formula, I don't need to recreate it for every account number. I can simply double click and you'll see it fills it throughout the entire chart of accounts. If I change the year here to 2009, you see that data does start to show up. This is a live report. Although it's very ugly, we can start going through this report and making it a little bit more attractive to the eye. Maybe we want to create some ranges that will group some of our accounts together. So let's say we wanted all of our asset accounts on one specific line. Now I know my asset accounts are from 10,000 to 19,000. So rather than having to recreate that formula we just built, I can simply just drag it up and it will aggregate all of those lines, all of those rows on one line. So I can call this just assets. And I can go through here and either create a collapsible filter or delete these altogether. I can continue to parse down my data until we get the view that we need for our business. Now, obviously, the next step, once you get this report looking the way that you want, is to get it delivered to the end user. A report manager always has the ability to share a report template with one of their end users if they've given them a report viewer license. And those report viewers can run these reports. They'll have full ability to work with the drill downs just by right-clicking or manipulate any of the reporting tree functionality. If you want to just send static values out to your end users, that requires no additional licensing. You can do that from within the report simply by clicking the BI Tools tab. So this is that plugin for distribution. So it's a plugin for Excel, and you'll notice that I have some options here, one of which being Manage Instructions. Now I have two different instructions for our reports. For my sales reports, I have them sent out via email. You'll see that it sends an email to sales@sage.com, and you can put multiple names and build your own subject line and body for the email. And you'll notice you can actually reference specific cells inside the email. So if studies show that end users are only looking for 2 to 3 points of data for any given report. If you know what those points of data are, you have the ability to reference those inside the email body, and you only have to build this one single time. So if every time you send a sales report, it needs to be total weekly sales or net profit or whatever it might be, the end user will be able to open their email and see those key points of information right inside the body of the email updated on whatever interval you choose. If they don't like those values, of course they'll be able to drill down to the report because it will be attached to either an Excel, PDF, or HTML format. You also have the ability to publish these out to a shared network folder or to an FTP server somewhere. Now what's really cool is you have the ability to send out these reports as individual documents to different recipient groups. So remember I created a specific balance sheet for our New York group. Let's say this is our Atlanta balance sheet. So I'll rename this Atlanta. And now when I go to the select instructions, you'll notice that those same instructions show up in this field. So for our sales group, remember that was sending an email to sales@sage.com. Let's say that that recipient only needs to see the New York balance sheet, where alternatively our finance group, they need to see New York, Atlanta, as well as our income statement and the drill down balance. So you have the ability to publish out these reports in specific views for the individual recipient. Very handy when it comes to things like commission reports or sales reports. Because when you publish the report, the data does become static at that point, and there will be no ties to the underlying ERP data. So you can segment out the data and distribute just the data that needs to get to that end user. Again, getting your end users closer to performing analysis from step one without having to manually intervene in this report and create filters and drill down, manipulate the data to get what they need. So again, the functionality contained within this add-in on the right-hand side is part of the designer module, which is that option. Now, when it comes to converting FRX reports, you have the ability to run an FRX report, export it to Excel, and just simply insert the worksheet inside of a designer report. Again, the designer reports are the ones that have this task pane on the right-hand side. Once your FRX report is inside this worksheet, you can simply link the formulas by dragging and dropping them from this right-hand side directly into the workbook. So you're going to maintain the existing layout and formatting of your FRX reports. On the Sage Intelligence community, there are some incredible resources that will walk you through how to convert FRX reports, as well as how to import your reporting trees if you've already built some reporting trees within FRX. I want to shift gears here and go back and run some of our standard reports here and show you an operational report. Today we'll run our sales report, so when I click Run, it's going to ask me for a date range. So let's say I want to see all of our sales from 2008 through the end of this month. So when I click OK, it's pulling the data in real time from the ERP database, and it's going to create a new Excel workbook, which you see here. You'll notice that this is just a glorified pivot table. So if you have any existing pivot table knowledge, you'll be able to harness that and start editing this report to suit your needs. You can drill down into this report simply by double-clicking, and it will open up the transactions that make up those balances. You could start inputting additional fields here if you wanted the item code to be an additional filter, and maybe we want that to be another field that the end user sees. Maybe we want to insert some charts or pivot table advanced functionality, all harnessing standard Excel. Once you have this report looking the way that you want, again, you're going to come back to the report manager, right-click the report template you want to save, and click Save Excel Template. Now, you do have the option of utilizing some of our dashboards that we include out of the box as well, one of which being the profitability dashboard. Now, this profitability dashboard will analyze the profitability of your business based on customer, product, and salesperson. This was suggested by our customer base 2 years at Sage Summit. So we designed this report and we published this out to the customer portal, which you can download today. There's 2 different versions of it depending on which version of Sage 100 you're on, but this is the version for 2014. This harnesses some of the new functionality that's available with Excel 2013. So we have the ability to pop out these individual widgets. You'll see that it's plotting out our customers based on their margin and volume into these 4 different quadrants. Gold, of course, being the main quadrant we want to pay attention to. These are the customers that are high margin, high volume. And we can pop out the individual data that makes up that chart here, so we can see the customer, what they purchased, total sales and cost of goods, and the resulting margin. And we also have the ability to animate multiple metrics over time. So this is showing the profitability of my salespeople, not only for their volume, but also the margin. So as I click play here, you'll see Bill is our #1 salesperson, and as he progresses throughout the year, we can watch the profitability of his performance because his bubble will expand and contract as it moves along the volume, which is plotted out here on the x-axis. Now, this data right here, of course you can get access to this in a standard Microsoft Excel workbook. You could simply run a sales report and add salesperson as a column. But as a sales manager in a previous life, I would have killed for a report like this. I too was utilizing Excel to analyze who my best salespeople were. This would be able to tell me very easily who my #1 salesperson is for any given point within the year. So obviously at Q2 in 2020, I'm going to go to Bill and say, what are you doing right? I need to share best practices with the rest of the team. You also have the ability now to harness geospatial mapping. So this is using the Bing Map plugin to translate customer address into a latitude and longitude and plot it on this Bing Map. So we have two customers here, one in Richmond, total sales of $3,700, slightly bigger circle here in Los Angeles, total sales of $14,000. So you can see it's only two customers plotted out in this map, but imagine if you had your entire customer base or your entire distributorship all plotted out in this map. It's going to give you a better picture of your business than trying to analyze this in a static Excel workbook or some static PDF. Again, going back to the main goal of Sage Intelligence, allowing you to perform analysis on the data that you've been so diligently collecting and organizing inside of Sage 100 and actually getting value out of this. Now, I'll admit that this report template does not apply to every single business model, but I love showing this report because it shows you just what's possible to design using Microsoft Excel and Sage Intelligence. Now, some of these report templates that we give you out of the box will handle a majority of your needs, although you always have the ability to start completely from scratch and create your own templates simply by right-clicking and clicking Add Report. We'll give this a report, we'll give this a name of Test 123, and it will open up a new box that allows us to choose where the data is coming from. So if we want to pull data from, let's say, our GL transaction report, very easily we can choose GL transactions. Then it gives us the ability to choose what fields from that table we want to make available for reporting. So let's say for your end users, report viewers, maybe there's certain fields that you would like to suppress so that maybe they don't even have the option of looking at that data accidentally. In this example, we'll just select all of the fields for the table and click OK. So right there, we just created a very simple report. It's going to pull the entire GL transaction table, basically, and we can click Run, and that will run that data out to Microsoft Excel. Once it's in Excel, and of course, I think that was the wrong container that I pulled there. Once it's in Excel, we can create pivot tables or create any graphs or anything that we want. And when we're finished and satisfied with that report template and it's in a format that's actually usable, all we need to do is come back and save the template. Therefore, we won't have to recreate the wheel every single time. Now, to give you a quick glimpse of what the report viewer license looks like, you still access this from the Sage 100 desktop or your Windows desktop if you're utilizing a version prior to 2014. And if we go down to Mark's folder, you'll see here there's only a handful of reports compared to what I had as a report manager. So I've only shared a handful of reports with the end user. So if I select the GL transaction report and click Run, it will pull the data from the ERP. It still prompts me for the parameters that I've set. So I want to run these GL transactions from 2008 through today. And so now this will run the report, create a new Microsoft Excel workbook. There we go. And so as a report viewer, I still have the ability to drill down and manipulate this report and save it as a static version. But if I wanted to make a change, a permanent change to this template, I would need to have the report manager do this. But as you can see, it gives you the ability to enable a little bit more of a self-service environment for the end user so that maybe they have the ability to specify specific date ranges or salespeople or accounts that they want to see. The last thing I wanted to show you here is the Sage Intelligence community site where you can go to get some resources. There we go. So if you go out to sageintelligencecommunity.com, you can sign up and register for a free account. It's very simple, just email and password type of account. And if you go to the group section, which we included a link for in the slides, like Walt mentioned, you can go to the group section and choose the Sage 100 group. That will give you a landing page of all the resources that you have specifically related to your platform. So down here in the 2014 version, which most of you are probably utilizing, you'll see there's a Getting Started guide, there's a Frequently Asked Questions, and an Install guide. And for those using FRX, there's a lot of conversion resources, which include PDFs, videos, and different DIY walkthroughs on things like how to convert your FRX reporting trees. The forum can be a very important tool for you to search previous topics, or you can post your own questions. As you can see, it's a very active environment. It's not dormant by any means. So I highly recommend taking a look at this resource. This is a free resource provided by Sage. And this is, again, what I primarily used to get up and running when I started working with Sage Intelligence. So at this point, I wanted to turn it back over to Walt.
Great, thanks, Mark. Let's go ahead and open up the lines for Q&A. While you were presenting, we had some questions that were submitted. So let me start there as well. The first question we had submitted, Mark, was, is Sage Intelligence compatible with my current version of Sage 100? And I'll go ahead and fill in the blanks on this one and take a stab at it. Yes, Sage Intelligence is compatible with Sage 100, Sage 500, and Sage ERP X3. But as far as the version compatibility, we probably need to take a step back and confirm what version you're using to make sure that it is compatible and is loaded on your current version. As Mark alluded to, it was delivered with the Sage ERP products, but most recently that happened after the announcement of the FRX retirement. So contact us, we'll give you a hand, and we'll confirm compatibility with your product and with your version. The second question we had is, can I pull data from an outside data source with Sage Intelligence? And the answer is yes, absolutely. With the connector add-on, you can actually extend the Sage Intelligence reporting tool to include outside data sources. And then our third question, Mark, was the pricing. What's the price of Sage Intelligence? And this is a two-part answer. Number one, if you're current on your versions of Sage 100, Sage 500, or Sage X3, you already have access to one report manager license. This ships with the product and is included with the product. If you don't have access to that from your main file folder network, we may simply need to install it or register that for you. The second part of the answer is the pricing depends on the product that you're using and the components that you want to activate, meaning do you need Designer, do you need Connector, how many users, and how many viewers would you be using at your site. Again, we'd be more than happy to have a quick call with you, either myself, Mark, Gia, or Rachel, to help you with your version compatibility and to understand your business needs so that we scope the correct product and the correct configuration. While I'm talking, let me go ahead and open up all the lines. If you have any questions, feel free to submit them. We've got time for Q&A. At this time, all lines have been unmuted. Any questions?
Do I need to upgrade to Excel 213?
That's a great question. So not exactly. It still is compatible with 2007 forward. The only limitation that you will have is a row limitation within Excel. So within, I want to say it was 790,000 rows with 2010. It's up to 1,040,000 with 2013. So if you plan on running data that has any extreme large volumes of data, that might be a limitation for you. In addition, some of the more advanced functionality like animation and geospatial mapping isn't available until 2013. So that type of functionality, you will be limited. However, most of the core functionality for financials and operational reports that most people are looking for is 100% compatible with 2010.
Good question. Any other questions?
Well, one thing I wanted to add, and this is very common whenever I do presentations like this, is most people are probably looking at this and saying, you know, well, I have very specific needs specific to my business, and maybe you don't feel comfortable, you know, discussing that in a public forum. We have 2 dedicated resources within North America that focus just on Sage Intelligence. If you would like to have a one-on-one presentation, we have those resources available for you. Just reach out to RKL, and they can coordinate so that you can have a more personalized demonstration if you want to discuss specific business functions that you're trying to accomplish. That's no problem at all. If you'd rather just take it offline, please reach out to RKL and they can coordinate that.
Great point, Mark. Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you.
Great presentation.
Yeah, I want to. Thank you. Real quick before you go, a couple of updates. Again, Mark alluded to it. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call. Gia or Rachel are your primary contacts. That's number 1. Number 2, if you haven't already registered for Sage Summit, Sage Summit is the Sage User Group event. It's being held in New Orleans this year from July 28th to July 30th. We will have a significant presence there. 32 members of the RKL team will be there. We currently have more than 40 customers going. We're going to host a customer appreciation dinner so that all of our customers are there, can network, exchange business cards, and learn from other users using the Sage portfolio. If you are interested and you haven't registered, send us an email. We'll be happy to share some of the promo codes with you to help you get registered, and we look forward to seeing you there. In conclusion, I want to thank everyone for your time today and your attention. Good luck with your reporting needs, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Right, they sent you a link, and you got to click on the link, and then